Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Books and Bites, Book Talks by Librarians. You have four of us today, aren't you lucky? I am Jennifer.
Joan,
Okay.
Carolyn.
Michelle.
All right, and so we're each going to do four books for a total of 16. We have a PowerPoint here, we have a handout, we have our lovely snacks. We've got pumpkin, lemon, and chocolate cake. And then we have books that you're welcome to take and then check out at the end if you see something that you do like. Let us know if you have any questions, interrupt us. We're happy for any feedback or any discussion. And so with that, we're going to get started. So I am up first. I'm just going to push this away. Okay, great. All right, so here we've got The Mad Wife by Megan Church. It is a new book. It came out this year, 2025. I would designate it as fiction, historical fiction, maybe even a little bit of a thriller, a little bit. I picked it up because I enjoyed the cover so much. It gave me definitely a vintage feel, and I wanted to know more about it. And I consider this my historical fiction pick because it's in the 1950s. I'm a little shaky about that kind of history, so I was learning something new. Okay. So, well, no.
All of us have lived through that.
Yeah.
And the biggest one, gotta be kidding. She's like the baby.
I've been active discover.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So the plot of the book. So our main character is Lulu Mayfield. She has a husband, she has a little boy. She's your typical housewife in the 1950s. Her home is immaculate, everything is on schedule. She has gelatin molded salads that she's known for, with dinner in the neighborhood party kind of thing. Yeah. So everything is perfect. And she's happy for the most part, as you can be, in the 1950s as a housewife. But then she has a second child, her daughter. And after that, things just kind of get a little weird. Her life kind of gets less organized. The suburban life becomes a little bit more harder to take. It's just a little bit more harder for her. Then new neighbors move in across the street, and Lulu becomes obsessed with them. What are they doing? What's going on with the family, with their own child? I don't like the way that their curtains look. Just she comes to be very fixated on them. And that kind of spills into her whole life where she's not focusing on her own family, but on the neighbors as well. So as this is going on, you kind of get with Lulu, is she reliable? Is something else going on? Is she okay? Is she losing her mind? What is going on with Lulu? And her family and her neighbors are thinking the same exact thing. And you couldn't really tell because it's all from her perspective. And that uncertainty just makes the book more and more engaging. And you're like, what the heck is going on the farther you get into the book? Uh, I love the period touches, not only with the gelatin salad, but they talk about, like she's describing a new dishwasher and just how it works, and it's just amazing to me. I'm sorry. She's talking about like trading stamps and post catalog, and like product catalogs, like the Sears thing. I know about the Sears, but just that kind of thing is just also foreign to me. I was like, oh my god, I think it's just amazing. So all of this is going on, and then halfway through, that's when the twist hits, and you're like, oh, this is what happened. This is what's going on. The whole book kind of snaps into focus. It gets a little less dreamy, and it's like a race from there about how it's going to end. The twist was shocking, perfectly timed. I really enjoyed that part. I found myself wanting to go back and look for the clues, the hints of what the twist was. That was very good. But yeah, the pacing is slow at the beginning. It's a lot more emotional than plot driven, but once the twist and that build up happens, then the plot hits you like a truck and you're off to the races, and then it ends. A nice satisfying ending. So the story explores motherhood, identity, the impossible pressures that one face then as well as today, but definitely you see a lot of it then, and the limitations that they had, where they didn't really have autonomy with their own lives, their husbands, their child, motherhood, and their own bodies especially. So yeah, it was a very good book. Never read anything else by her, but,
Sounds good.
interesting.
Very nice.
All right.
All right, no.
Okay, write a book. It's a new author. I think it might be the start of a new series. It's the conflict between a by the book cop and a literature professor who finds out how the murder setup was. And she says, oh, this is part of Shakespeare. And the couple of artists painted picture of the scene, and this is how it changes from what the artist and the poetry have to talk about. And it's not just a straightforward murder. There's more going on here, and of course the cop has no interest in hearing her point of view because she lives in an ivory tower and he's down in the nitty gritty. Very interesting. I liked it because it wasn't the usual, oh, I'll be your partner in crime. They sort of butted heads a lot, which is kind of nice. I don't like things too easy, but I highly recommend it. It's a whole different slant on professional versus talented amateur. And it was fun. That's it.
Very nice, man.
Wait,
Painless.
All right.
Hello. Okay, so I read Change the Recipe Because You Can't Build a Better World Without Breaking Some Eggs by Chef Jose Andres. I actually really love this book. It was pretty amazing. I started to read it and then I switched over to the audiobook when I realized that he narrates his own story, which is amazing because he has a very animated, booming voice. He's very punchy. He is a Michelin starred chef, and he is also the founder of the World Central Kitchen, which is a nonprofit that go out into communities where there's natural disasters or man-made disasters such as war. A little bit about Jose Andres. He trained under Spanish chef Ferran Adria, and he also cooked in the Spanish Navy, cooking for admirals. And he moved to the US at 21 years old, where he worked in different restaurants and then started to build his own ideas, build his own restaurants. This book is part memoir and part inspirational, and it's really a call to action to help people during war, during natural disasters, which I mentioned previously. And his journey in food has inspired him to help people, not just in restaurants and fancy places, but on the ground. And I think for Jose, he actually really focuses on less talking and more doing. And so he likes to put boots on the ground and cook meals because, as he says, and I'd like to quote, cooking makes us human. It's what separates us from every other animal on the planet. We are the only species to cook our food. There's good reason to think that cooking helped our brains to grow, to develop sophisticated language, and to build community. If you can't cook, you waste a lot of energy chewing and digesting. And if you heard him say it, it's very funny because he just has that booming voice. So his quote continues, it should be no surprise that cooking and eating together restores us and our sense of community, especially in the worst situations. Hot meals are magical. In a disaster or war, they feed your stomach and your soul. Cooking food transforms the ingredients and the way we feel when we eat them. A hot meal tells you that somebody cares. And I think the best takeaway from this book is like showing that we care by actually doing, not just speaking. So I would love if anyone reads it to let me know what they think, because I really enjoyed it.
Great.
All right, okay, all right, so I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Frida McFadden, she's a very popular author right now. We have any Frida fans. If you like books on psychological thrillers, survival, or even medical thrillers, you might want to pick up one of her books. The Housemaid movie adaptation is actually out in theaters tomorrow. I'll be there. I really want to see how it
Of course you will be.
All right, so let's dive in. So the main character, Millie Calloway, she is a 20-something-year-old woman with a troubled past. She spent most of her time in prison. So I won't give that away. After she gets released, she has nowhere to go. So she is struggling to find a job, and with a, criminal history, that's nearly impossible. She's applying to, burger places, anything, any ad that she can get her hands on. She comes across an ad for Nina Winchester for a live-in nanny position. And Nina, she has a very elegant mansion, and everything about her is, perfect, from dress to everything. And Millie's questioning the whole time, did she do a background check on me? Why is she even interviewing me for this opportunity? Because it includes living there, cooking, cleaning, taking care of her daughter. But Millie looks at this as anything better because she's currently living in her car, specifically a white Nissan, and she, looks at this as a really good situation. So Nina ends up offering her the position, and she's skeptical. She's getting a tour of the house, and all the bedrooms are really big with very nice furniture, and everything looks nice. And you get to Millie's room, and it's the size of a broom closet. It's this really, outdated, kind of eerie, really creepy. And the door only locks from the outside. So that clearly is a red flag. Right? That is a red flag. But still, Millie is like, well, I can't get a job. I don't have money. Where am I going to go? I'm tired of living in my car. So she looks past all of these red flags. So this book really, there's a lot of twists. It's really for horror fans, horror and thriller fans. So if you're into that genre, this, would be something good for you, to read. It's more sinister, right? Right? So this is your type of genre, you probably won't be able to put the book down.
And like the red flags. Yes. Okay. All right, so we're back over to me. And here we've got Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory, by Caitlin Joey. Come on. I get one weird.
I'm gonna like a high five for crematory.
I get one weird one, guys. You have to give me one.
All right, we'll give it to
weird
you.
one. Okay, it is nonfiction. This is her memoir. So it is a deep dive into the world of death, grief, and just the funeral industry. Because there's a lot that's not really told to people who, start the process, whatever that is. Caitlin is a mortician and an advocate for death acceptance. And in this book, she blends her personal experiences working in the cremation and the funeral business with broader reflections on society's often uneasy relationship with death. And we like to just kind of put things under the rug. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to see it. We want other people to take care of it. So in the book, she recounts stories from her time starting into this process as a mortician. She initially was a history major of medieval literature. So that really didn't work out. So she's in San Francisco and she's just starting this new job in a funeral home and just what that entails because she didn't really know walking in what it was going to be. Caitlin is very funny. She uses wit and humor. It's as much as the topic is depressing, the book itself, the writing is not. She's very humorous. She has a lot of wit, and she'll make you laugh. It's a book about death, but you will laugh. It's just fascinating because you don't really know everything that goes behind the scenes behind a funeral home, a funeral parlor, and she just talks about. She's very frank about what is going on and what to expect, and then also what the alternatives are if you don't like what they're offering. There are other ways. So that's very nice. Very relaxed conversational tone, positive attitude, great sense of humor. Can't say that enough. So you may be saying, how did you come across this book?
Yes, Jennifer, how did you come across this book?
Actually, she has a very successful YouTube channel on YouTube called Ask a Mortician, where she takes questions and she answers anything and everything about funeral, cremation, just can I do this? Can I not do that? What's going on here? Is this legal? I want a green burial. I want a water burial. She answers those questions, and she's very funny and she's very frank. So somehow I found that, and I thought, oh, she has a book, and I read it, and she did a wonderful job, and very much liked it. And if you like it enough, she actually has 2 other books, so clearly she is successful. And one of them, is From Here to Eternity is the title. She travels throughout the world and she gives you like a synopsis of each culture's funeral practices, just how the world does it. So that's very interesting historically, culturally. And then another weird one, she goes, "Will my cat eat my eyeballs?" and other questions about dead bodies. I know. And that one, she solicits questions from kids who are very innocently asking about stuff, what happens when you die. And very frankly, she answers those questions with a good sense of humor. Um, she's accomplished a lot for her young age. And I can't say enough about how interesting it is. If you liked When Breath Becomes Air, when that was a big hit back in like 2016, that also was a book about someone who was going through cancer and death and all that kind of stuff. So if you remember that book and you liked it, this is gonna appeal to you just as much, but it's a little bit more lighthearted. I think you can believe that. Okay, great. Back to Joe.
Okay. Okay, so this time it's not history. The Roma, a traveling history by Madeline Potter, who is in fact a member of the Roma, which are like gypsies. They have an oral history. There's very little written down about the development of the Roma. They think they started possibly in India and traveled eastward, not necessarily of their own volition. They were often vilified and forced out. They wound up in Egypt for a while. That's why they're called gypsies, as in Egypt. They traveled up into the whole of Europe. Britain has basically said, we don't want you to travel with your wagons and your horses anymore. We want you to settle down. So they are closing many of the areas where they used to travel and have camps. And it's very interesting because due to the fact that they have no real written history, Madeline Potter is in fact kind of the interpreter of Romani culture and its place in the world nowadays, and it's depressing. Well, it's depressing in that people have no sympathy for them. They don't accept them. They don't tolerate them. They're just viewed basically as vermin. But it's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's not for everyone, certainly, but I like it. I mean, I like knowing what the story is with them.
You learned something.
Yeah, I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right, Carolyn.
All right, the next book I read was The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. It's a realistic fiction book, 2025, and it's written the story's written like in letters. The main character, Sybil Van Antwerp, has used her sense of words in the world to tell her story to family, to friends, to people that she doesn't really like. like the professor at a college where she's trying to take a course and they won't let her audit the class. Very interesting. First and foremost, as she writes in the story, you get to know that she's a mother of three. And throughout the story, you learn that she has lost one of her children when they were in their youth, and she is currently estranged from her daughter. She's also a grandmother, a wife, a divorcee, and most importantly, she's a distinguished attorney, living her life to the fullest. Um, I found that this book was uplifting and yet heavy at times as you follow on her journey, because I find out in the story that she's going blind as she's in her retirement season. And it's kind of sad to watch because the one thing that she loves to do is write letters, which I feel like we've really lost touch with, like writing letters and using pens and paper to get our feelings across. That it's sad to see her going blind and, to read about her going blind in story. And when I was reading it too, it kind of gave off a little bit of Olive Kitteridge, but a little more whimsical, which I thought was pretty cool because, as you know, Olive Kitteridge, she's like just tough and rough. But in this story, I really enjoyed it. And what Sybil did throughout the letters that she wrote, she created lots of connections through controlled words. She started many threads that made me laugh or nod my head, and I recognized that sometimes, you can see that she's weaving the story, and it basically focuses on her life and kind of ways that she regretted maybe not having a better relationship with her children. So I thought it was actually really a wonderful story. And the book really pays homage to the act of writing itself. And for her, she was processing trauma and conflict, and then trying to nurture relationships in unexpected ways, and learning to heal in the process of it all. So it was one of the books I really liked. It was very touching. It's hard to describe until like you're in it and reading it. So I'm not gonna do too many spoiler alerts because it's a great story, and the way it's written, it's really beautiful. So that's it.
Did you read it or did you listen to it?
I read this one, yeah, because it was like, she's writing letters to
Yeah,
different people.
I was curious,
Yeah.
like, if you were listening to audio,
I think, and in the audio, what I believe I read that there's different people reading
Yeah,
their stories,
reading
which is
like
pretty awesome, but I wanted to read it because I just like the fact that it was letters that are written, yeah, and we don't really do that anymore.
Thanks.
Okay.
Alright.
Okay, sorry, we're going back to the 50s. So we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really like this author. This was my first book that I read by her, but I've read many since. I actually went to one of her book talks, and what's really nice about that is I got to hear her explain how she did the research for this book. She's very dedicated to wanting to know all the players, all the characters. So this book, it's fiction, but it's also historical fiction, psychological fiction, romantic fiction. There's a lot of pieces here. It's a regular novel, but there's also newspaper clippings that I found are really interesting. So this book is a 50s Hollywood drama scandal. So the main character, Evelyn Hugo, she was influenced by a few actresses in that era. So the author kind of put all scenarios together to make it one. The story, it begins with like a news article insert, so it kind of gets you interested, like, ooh, look at this, what happened, right? It's kind of like looking at a tabloid. And then it quickly introduces Monique, who Monique becomes a very important character in this book. Monique is a newspaper reporter, but she's new, so she's not well known or anything. And she's really confused, and other people are really confused why Evelyn chose her to report on her life after she, passes. She's going to talk about everything that's happened. But something like that. So this unravels at the end. So we're not going to spoil that. But just know that that's really important. And it really goes through Evelyn's life. Right? She has seven husbands, and yeah, and the chapters are towards maybe halfway through the book, they do start to get into the husbands and they're titled with the names and like a little snippet of how she felt about each of them. So that part is really fun, to look at that as the story kind of starts to unravel. Excuse me, but the story really goes into how Evelyn is the it girl of that era, so it's character development, she's going through finding her identity. It's old Hollywood, so there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of high expectations. So she's doing this through the fifties, and I believe she ends up leaving the movie industry in the eighties. And there is a lot to unpack, a lot of Hollywood drama, romance, affairs, unexpected surprises. So if this is your style, you might want to try one of these books. Try this book, I'm sorry. But if I say much more, it will spoil it. It's one of those books where you don't want to give too much away, but it'll keep you really flipping the pages. You'll want to know more. And like Jen said, where she was going back in the book, anytime there's a news clipping, I'll go back and go, wait a second, but they said this, and then the news article says this. So there's a lot of changes, a lot of cover-ups. So it really dives into the movie industry and the media as well.
Probably trying to read in between the lines.
Exactly. And a lot of things that, you wouldn't expect. There's a lot of twists.
All right. So we're back over to me. So this is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Came out this year, 2025. It is fiction. Kind of got a lot of buzz. It got really popular when it came out. So I had to pick it up because we got a lot of requests for it at the reference desk. And it's like, what is going on with this book? Why is it so busy? All right. So for anyone not familiar with the seed vault, so a seed vault provides long-term storage for duplicates of seeds from around the world. Giving you a little context because that's a major point in this book. It's meant to provide security for the world's food supply in case something happens to like a country and they lose access to all their good seeds, all their good plants, whether it's mismanagement, accident, war, sabotage, disease, maybe all the crops spoil, or just natural disaster. Maybe there's a huge earthquake or hurricane and they lose some kind of very important plant or seed that they can't get because once it dies, you're out of luck. Seed vaults are meant to provide like storage for these seeds so that just in case, if you ever need to go back and get a pristine sample, you can get it and then you can introduce the crop back into the country. So that is very important. It is a real thing. There is probably the most famous seed vault is in Norway, and it protects 1.5 million seeds, represents about 13,000 years of agricultural history. As we develop, as we crossbreed plants, as we change plants so that they produce more, bigger potatoes, bigger onions, that kind of thing, different versions of it. So it is a real thing and it is important. So
fascinating.
yes,
Like, do we need the seeds?
Yeah.
We need farms, yeah.
yeah, and so it is a real thing. So here we have this book. Charlotte takes us to an incredibly isolated place. It is called Shearwater Island. It is a very tiny island right between Antarctica. Antarctica's down here. Antarctica and Australia. So it's right there, very barren place. There's no people. It's just one little strip of island. And it's just lots of wildlife, and it's cold, and it's just a lot of water because you're just surrounded by empty ocean. This island is a home of a lighthouse, very nice, and then also a seawall. And a father and his 3 kids reside in the lighthouse, and they're there protecting the seed bank, just watching over it, making sure it doesn't get any cracks in the foundations, things don't, drown if the seawater gets in or whatever. There's a hurricane, a storm, whatever. They're just there to protect it. But as time goes on, they notice that the sea levels are rising, and the water is just coming in, no matter what they do, no matter how they fortify it. And now the seed vault is in jeopardy, and the people there, the researchers, the family, they're in jeopardy as well. There's no help for miles, very hard to get to, and just the relentless crash of the ocean and just storms, more and more intense storms coming that you're just battling it all the time. So and the seawall is about to be decommissioned. They're just gonna wash their hands of it and say, this island can't help it. You're losing it. Just everybody evacuate. And so they're working on evacuation. And then a body washes up on shore, but she's alive. We have a woman here. She's alive. What the heck is she doing here in the middle of nowhere at the end of the earth kind of thing? But she's there for a very important reason. She's looking for her fiance, who is one of the researchers. And he's not there anymore. Why isn't he there anymore? Why does the family know? Because there's no one else there. It's just the family and now this random woman. What is going on? What happened to everyone else? And why is this woman here? And how the heck did she get there for one? So the book has a perspective of about 5 people. I know it sounds like a lot, but there are literally no other characters in this book because there's no one else on the island.
It's like Castaway, but for seasons.
Yeah. So you won't get too confused, I promise. Everyone has their own voice and they're very identifiable. You just bounce from perspective to perspective. The scenery that the author describes is very lush. The wildlife, she talks about whales, penguins, seals, birds. It's just, you want to go there, but you also don't want to go there because it sounds really cold, really dangerous, but it sounds amazing to witness as well. So it's a very good book, very interesting book. You get shuffled around the family, you learn more about them and the secrets and what's going on with them. And just the ending, of course, it's about a big storm finally comes, and then everything is just put to bed. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. So a very rising climax, and then we're done. So a very good ending as well. So it got a lot of buzz, and rightfully so. It's a very good book as well. So, nice. What you got for us now?
It's not fiction, I'm not generally a big nonfiction person, but this is the story of the families of people who were disappeared in Argentina at the end of Perón's reign and through the military juntas into the 90s. So every time they had a change of government leader, the military would say, oh, these people are rebel routers. These people are terrorists. These people are trying to destroy our way of living. And they would disappear people, which meant they were taken off the street. If you happened to be a male, you were often disposed of shortly. If you were female and pregnant, they would keep you alive until you had your baby and pass the babies on to the military members. Not then they would disappear them by drugging them, putting them in an airplane and dropping them in the ocean.
Wow.
That was really terrible. But this is the story of the grandmothers of those children who were passed along, who stood in a plaza, not saying a word, just with a white kerchief around their head, taking the government to task without saying a word. All they wanted to know was what happened to our children and our grandchildren. As the story progresses, the regimes change, but people are still disappearing. They are able to get some help from NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and from DNA, through the grandparents. They trace them through the mother's line and find some of the grandchildren, some of whom are returned to the grandparents, who are now quite elderly, and many of whom said, no, I'm staying with the family I was raised with. I don't believe that I have anything in common with these people you tell me are my grandparents. The, the junta said that there were roughly 1,000 people who were, disappeared. The NGOs have estimated in excess of 30,000 people were taken off the streets and dropped in the ocean. It's really, it's a terrible story, but there's a certain amount of satisfaction in that the grandmothers, the abuelas, were able to force the government to respond to their concern about their grandchildren, and they were able to develop ways to trace the grandchildren through DNA. It's not great. Many of the grandparents were disappeared themselves because they were a little too noisy for the government. But it's good that they were able to recover some of their grandchildren. But they never had any idea. They don't officially know where the children, mothers, fathers, where they wound up, but some of the people from the juntas have said dropped from a plane into the water. Not great. And there's no clear-cut response. But it's a really important story.
It's important.
Not unlike our saying, we're separating families from the border. You take the kids, we'll return the parents, and we don't have any connection between them. We are doing similar things. That's my one and only political.
Yeah, you can learn from history. We're supposed to
Well,
learn.
we can. We so often don't, but we could. Yeah.
You're good? All right. I hope you have something happier for us.
Not really, but okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Carol.
I'll segue into, this book wasn't really too happy. It's actually sad. River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. I like to call him the Mr. Oprah Book Club guy. It's set in New England. A young dad named Corbin Ledbetter, he's a graphic designer who just lost his job. His life is starting to kind of spiral out of control because, he's married, has twin toddlers, he's out of a job, so he's trying to cope with his new reality. And he's a stay-at-home dad at the moment, supposed to be looking for a job. However, he's started abusing his prescription medication and drinking, which his wife doesn't know anything about. Little bit of a spoiler alert, there is a tragic accident that happens that affects him and his family. And he ends up in prison, which is not good. But he owned up to what had happened, which was an accident. However, he wasn't paying attention. He was disconnected from the situation, which created this accident, which now he's paying dearly for. He goes to prison and he's dealing with a lot of brutality and injustice in the prison system. And one of the parts that really resonated was that he connected with a librarian who, provided kindness and kinship to him while he was in the prison system. There's really no easy answers or ideas. And in the story, there's no sugarcoating the darkness of it because it's very sad. There's a lot of anguish, there's a lot of regret, there's a lot of desperation. And unfortunately, in the end of the story, it doesn't really turn out well because even though he has paid for his sins in prison, he ultimately pays with his life. So I don't want to share too much because it was really emotional, but you might want to get a box of tissues for this story. So I'm going to keep it really short because it was really sad.
Wait until after the Christmas holidays.
Yes.
Yes. It's not a Christmas book.
Yeah, it's definitely not a Christmas book. It's really emotional. It was really sad reading it. So I would love to see what anybody else thinks about it.
Do you have anything happier for us? You do.
I do. So the first part that I'm gonna tell you is not happy, but the book is happy. The book is happy. So I've got your number by Sophie Kinsella. So Sophie Kinsella, I just wanna note, she did pass away last week. She was a British author, if anyone has heard of that.
55 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very young.
Very very sad because I love all her books. Yeah, I'll move away from that, but she was very well known for her Shopaholic book series. If anyone has read that or heard of that, it was also a movie adaptation too. She has another standalone book, Can You Keep a Secret? That was also a movie. Very good in my opinion, by the way. Yes. I can describe her books as the perfect blend of fun, romantic, and comedic. So this book, it is 433 pages, but it's light. It's like just like I said, that perfect blend. So it's written as a regular novel style, but there are inserts of text messages and emails. So it's really fun to flip through it and see what's happening. So Poppy is the main character, and she is engaged to her dream man, Magnus. And
The name of Magnus, yeah.
you know, and she's at this party and she loses her engagement ring, right? I don't know, what are the odds? And then she loses her cell phone. There's all these crazy, unpredictable things happen. You know, she's got this perfect thing going, and all of these things start to fall apart. And what I like about this book is it's very silly and very, very fun. I know I keep repeating that, but it really is, because she finds a new cell phone in a trash can that she happens to walk by, right? So now
Totally unbelievable.
right? But it's fun. So if you need something light, you know,
Yeah,
just
yes.
going from what you
From
got.
sadness to
Yes.
comedy.
And then she takes out the trash cans.
Yeah.
See, now you wanna know what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she has this new phone that she opens, and, you know, she gives out, she has to give out the number, you know, she looks to find out what it is to everyone because she needs that engagement ring, right? So this ring was in Magnus's family for generations, right? And this is law, right? So she opens this phone and there's a lot of texts and emails. So it's a business phone. So this phone belongs to Sam, and he is a very serious businessman. So, you know, he has another line of communication. So they end up talking back and forth. Now, this is a secret because she doesn't want to tell Magnus that she lost the ring, right? She also doesn't want to tell Magnus that she's talking to Sam, because who is Sam, right? Sam is this mystery, this new pen pal. So, you know, without spoiling, it's a lot of, you know, Poppy might find out that maybe she wasn't as happy as she was, you know, she has a new friend. So it's a really just funny book to go through. I couldn't stop laughing. I love it. You know, I love her writing. I love all her books. So if you want something light and just something really nice to read, I would recommend picking this up.
Nice.
I'm finishing a thought, so going.
Oh, okay, I thought, oh my God, John Border, wildfire game. This is a great story of a woman who has worked for the Forest Service in California and decides that she would like to become a hotshot, which is a member of an elite firefighting group in California. They're the ones who, you know, climb up and they're waiting for the water ship to come by and they're trying to build fire breaks. And here she is, plus 30, not a very tall woman, and a woman. And these hot shots are, for the most part, big, hulking, physically prime men. But she decides she's going to do it. And the first year is not a good thing, because she is pale and Charlie. Now they decide they're going to encourage her and they're going to help her along, but she has to do the running up the hills, carrying her pack of 60 pounds when she's not a tall woman. And then as she is able to do that, then they say, well, since you can do that, we need you to bring up the 40 pounds of water that you need to, that you need to have for the rest of the crew, because we're carrying the fuel for our, okay. What do you call those?
Semi-automatic?
What is it?
You cut down trees with them.
Oh, tree
Dog.
Chainsaw. It's a really interesting book. It talks about, the fires that she was involved with in California, 300,000 acres, somewhere between, 40 acres and 450 acres, 50,000 acres, where they see that fire has overrun their actual, where they have an apartment. It's all gone. And there's only so much you can do. It's really interesting, because I never had any idea what was involved in that kind of firefighting, and I thought, thank God there are people who want to do it. I just can't imagine doing it, but it's illuminating and it's really helpful to have a sense of perspective about what's involved in doing that sort of work. It's was really interesting. I highly recommend it.
Wow.
Yeah, don't say that often.
All right, back to you, Carol.
Back to me, Some Bright Nowhere by Ann Packer. Another realistic fiction book, I selected. Maybe a little bit sad, but more realistic. It's the story about Elliot and Claire. Elliot is the husband of Claire, who had been battling cancer for close to 8 years, and she's nearing the end of her life. And Elliot's been nothing but a willing, loving, and devoted husband to her, and has been taking care of her, as we would expect. However, in the story, we learn that his partner, Claire, has a dying wish that she would prefer for her friends to care for her in the end stages of her life, which leads her husband to kind of spiral, and to look at his own self and try to figure out like how does this come to be. I really loved how it shared his struggle and his isolation, and the fact that he didn't feel like there was a place for him when you really should have a place, because this is your spouse, a person that you've been with for close to 4 decades. I wouldn't say it was super sad, because we knew what was gonna happen, but it was sad in this aspect that he didn't get to be there and be part of her transition to the other side, so. I started to listen to this book, and I had to switch over to actually reading it because I didn't care for how it was being narrated, but overall, I thought it was a really great book, and I would definitely recommend this one.
Was it like cool narrators or?
It was just one narrator, and it was kind of like dry, so I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna go back to happy and fun.
Like that.
So this is called The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So this is my second book by Sally Thorne. Kind of like Sophie Kinsella, very just fun, romantic, funny. This was also adapted into a movie in 2021. And if you look at the screen, it starred Lucy Hale and Austin Stowell. And I met both of them. I think that's why I'm so attached to this book and the movie, because they're very nice. So this book, it's funny because the characters' names are actually Lucy and Josh. So it's just funny because Lucy, you got the one name there. But so Lucy and Josh, they're the main characters, and they hate each other. It says it right in the title. They don't dislike, they actually despise each other. So they work for a publishing company, and the way their desks are, they sit right across from each other, so they're staring at each other all day. And they play these games that they call them. They'll do the staring game or the mirroring game. So, if Lucy's like this, Josh is also like this, right? So they just like to aggravate each other all day long. And, it's not really known why, it just kind of gets into it, like these two people hate each other, right? And there's, yeah, very. Spoiler. And, Josh is very, like studious, very serious. He wears, the same outfits, and Lucy complains about it, like, oh, this day he's gonna wear robin egg blue, or this day he's gonna wear navy blue. It bothers her. It's quite funny, and her, appearance also bothers him because she's very like fun and colorful, and just and he just doesn't like it. He's very corporate. And Lucy, this also appeals to me because in the book, she wanted to be a librarian, but she went on a school trip to a publishing company and she fell in love with it. I say that because she contemplates quitting because of Josh. And she, thinks about going back to a librarian, but she's just like so thrilled about working at a publishing company. And there is a promotion coming up. So, Lucy and Josh just go at it even harder with their games because now there is competition and they both want this job. But they're hating games that we're gonna call them. Might
I don't know if I
not
believe
be,
that.
might not be so much of hate. So if you wanna know how this ends with who gets the job or what happens, I would recommend checking this out because it's just such a fun read. The movie's really good too, by the way.
I think they're secretly in love.
I can just imagine the manager just being like, this guy's cut it out. Oh my god. Okay, so that brings us to our last one here. So we're back over here with me. You know me and my Riley Sager. I gotta have one Riley Sager. I know. So here we go, with his one that came out this year, is With a Vengeance. It is fiction, mystery, thriller, with, around categories around like that. So we're set in 1942. The novel follows Anna Matheson, a woman with nothing left to lose, so she's always very dangerous. Her family dies in a suspicious train crash. And from then on, it's game on. She's going to figure out what happened, who's responsible, and she's going to bring those people to justice. So with all that in mind, she concocts a plan and she boards a luxury overnight train from Philadelphia to Chicago with a mission to take revenge on the 6 people responsible, who she's sure are responsible. She's not alone. She has an accomplice, Seamus, who also lost someone in the train crash, that killed her family originally. And the two of them are going to carry out a very carefully orchestrated plan. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. But as the journey unfolds, unexpected twists arise. The mastermind, who Anna is so sure is behind everything, he doesn't even get on the train. Instead, he sends his son, Dante, who is Anna's former lover. So we're getting even more spice here. But so you've got all these people on a train, it's just them on the train, and they are stuck there. No, this train is not going to stop for anything. And as the journey progresses, someone ends up dead. And that wasn't really according to plan. She just wanted to bring them to justice at the end of the line with the cops waiting and all that, with all the proof that she needs. But someone ends up dead, and from then on, it's game on. Who's responsible? Who else is going to die? We're trying to silence people, or is this all just their whole revenge plot? So it's a very smart, sharp-edged story. It's a locked room mystery because you're locked on this train. And I enjoy that kind of setup. Just like you only have so many suspects. Here they all are on the train. This is who you got. And I do enjoy the train aspect. I don't go nearly on as many trains as I would like, but I do have a fascination with them. So I enjoyed the environment, the atmosphere very much, especially it being a luxury train when that was such a cool thing. So that was also very appealing to me. Anna as a character, she's our main character. She never falls into the damsel trope. She's sharp, layered, relentless. She has one goal, and nothing is going to stop her about that. So she is definitely not your damsel in distress where she needs, Seamus or her former lover Dante to help her out. She's got a knife and she's ready to use it.
I like that.
So reading this book, it feels kind of like a Hitchcock meets Agatha Christie on an express train. So it's very atmospheric. It feels like a crime noir, movie. Very good. Yeah, so I love Riley Sager. I've read pretty much all of his books by now, and anytime a new one comes up, I'm always right on it and ready to read it. So if you're looking for a fun thriller, you're just gonna tear through it like a train.
There's your one. It sounds good.
I just read putting my.
You did? Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I would love to see like a movie of it, I would think, and once I got enough time. Yeah, just because it's so atmospheric, like just watching it on screen would be very cool as well. Kind of like, Murder on the Orient Express kind of thing.
Express,
Yeah.
yeah. Where is the train?
It starts in Philadelphia and then it goes to Chicago. It's about a journey of about 14 hours, overnight. And of course, they're going through a snowstorm, of course, just to make it more dramatic. So definitely a very, yeah, I just love the atmosphere. I love it.
It's clever.
Yeah,
There was a lot about it. It was really clever.
yeah. The twist, the ending, like how are we all gonna wrap this up? It was very out of the box thinking.
Yes.
I like that.
Okay, great. So, with that, that is our 16. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you, like this, we're doing something similar in January. It's our 2026 book tasting. So these are books that are upcoming in 2026. So obviously we have not read them yet, but these are the books that we're excited about, that we're gonna keep our eyes on. So if you want to add something to your hold list, this will be for you as well. Great. And with that in mind, please help yourself to some snacks. Any books that you see, you're welcome to check out at the circulation desk as well. Okay, wonderful, thank you.
All right, thanks.
There.
Yeah. Oh, do that.